you'll have my information there at the end, and many of you already have my email, jboyer@boyerassociates.com. Wanted to share with you, you're all muted due to the size of the audience. We have quite a big audience today. Normally when Marcus presents, we get lots of interaction, and we just can't do that today because there's too many participants, and sometimes people don't mute their phones, and we get feedback and that kind of thing. So hopefully you understand the approach to needing to mute the participants. In a few minutes, we'll talk a little bit about each partner presenting. We'll have just a few slides, and the vast majority of this presentation will be a demo. So we'll get to that very shortly. What we wanted to do is just do a brief introduction of the people. So you can see my photo up there, Jack Boyer. I started this business in 1994, worked with one of the original developers that Microsoft acquired. Marcus Howe is an expert of accounting software generally, ERP software, has done unassisted implementations of Epicor, Dynamics GP, Dynamics SL, Dynamics Nav, has really dug into this Dynamics 365 new product and gotten quite good with it already. Learns and understands software very quickly, and has a great grasp of what this product can do for you if it's a good fit for your business. And once we understand your business more. Matt Badgerow is with ComparX. ComparX is a cloud-based partner of Microsoft that was asked to move from Europe to open offices in the U.S. due to having a better understanding of Office 365, Azure, all things cloud-oriented with Microsoft. And Matt will do a brief introduction of himself after he covers just a few slides. Wanted to bring up this next piece, give you just a minute to read this. We've won 3 national awards in the last year, and our mission, our focus, is really making our clients better. And so that's really why we do this, and I think you'll see that in the presentation. Our focus is on you. One slide on Boyer & Associates, again founded in 1994, not 1924. 325 clients, 19 staff people. We are focused only on Microsoft ERP solutions. So we've got 325 clients across these 4 products. Our goal is not to be the cheapest, but to be the best. So you can see the services that we're providing, really everything to make your Microsoft Dynamics ERP project successful. Okay. Our core values quickly are trust. We want to be a partner you trust. Effort. We want to give it our all to make your business better. Attitude. We strive to have a positive attitude, make sure that we push that throughout our organization, and we want to have meaningful relationships with you. We don't want to be a vendor. We want to be your partner. And relationship with an ERP partner is much more of a marriage than a date, and we've done that successfully for a long time. Matt? Would you please introduce yourself and cover your slides?
Sure. Sorry, the slide was delayed on my end. It just came up. My name is Matt Badgerow. I'm with ComparX USA. As Jack had mentioned, we are a European company that was actually asked over to the U.S. by Microsoft themselves to focus on more the cloud stack and actually be a cloud partner rather than just your normal LSP. So we go beyond licensing. We go, as the graphic shows, we go into software asset management. We have our own tool, our own software product that we stand behind. That's a managed service for software asset management. We have cloud management, typically for 2 different products, for Azure and for Office 365, where we manage them for you, give you a TAM, and can also provide help desk as well. You can advance the slide if you want. And then as far as us coming into the market, we are now in 33 countries. So she's the global brand right there. We're in 34 countries now. We actually just went into Canada, which we're doing very well there. 2,300 employees, and also with Microsoft, again, we're fully focused on Microsoft. We're also aligned to Microsoft, so we're aligned to the territory managers. So that actually gives us a lot more of an advantage over most other LSPs and some service providers that we work directly with that relationship to be able to help out on consumption of those products. Been going over this. I'm just putting it up there for you to read. We've been doing this for, in Europe, we've been around for 20 years. And we're headquartered in Leipzig, Germany. We've been doing a lot of these migrations. We have 3.5 million Office 365 users under our management right now. That's global. We've also overseen the largest migration of Office 365 at 350,000 seats for one single customer. So this is an offering that's been in place ever since Office 365 was in place. So these are offerings that are already baked, ready to go. On top of that, we handle all Microsoft licensing as well. So that's the way we work with Blair, is we handle Microsoft licensing for them. So in this case, it would be licensing for Dynamics. We also do Office 365. We do every Microsoft product out there except for the really higher end Dynamics, which we would just have to go through Europe to do. But that's my portion. Could probably, Jack, are we kicking it over to Marcus for a demo?
Yep. Thanks, Matt and Jack. I just wanted to start briefly by talking and thinking a little bit about what's happening in the marketplace right now, answering some questions or really clarifying what is Dynamics 365, and then specifically the product we're showing today, which is Dynamics 365 for Financials Business Edition. So the marketplace. More and more organizations are really looking for options other than purchasing software and hardware and installing and maintaining these systems inside of their own network. So the idea of options besides software purchase and hardware inside your network isn't really a new idea. But what we're seeing is organizations have a lot more options now when it comes to again, options other than purchasing software and having hardware. So the cloud is sort of this almost ambiguous term that's used to describe and can be used to describe options other than, inside software hardware purchase. So any move outside of your organization technically could be called a cloud option. So you really need to ask questions and understand what is your goal and what are you trying to accomplish with a cloud solution, because there's a lot of options out there. So let's look at some of those. This whole idea of hosting. So you can host hardware. You can have your own hardware owned by you and have it hosted in some sort of data center where the data center will manage the hardware for you. You could have a co-located hardware option, which means you don't actually own hardware. You rent hardware space from a data center. Again, in both of those options, you could own the software. You can lease software or basically rent software. So in those environments where you've got co-located hardware that you own or you rent, again, you've got software options. The big change here with Dynamics 365 is this is really what's been known as software as a service. So this is very different than those options. And with this option, you don't own or maintain any hardware or software. And the model works is that this is a service that you buy, and you pay per month per user for the service. So if you're not really familiar with this concept, it's actually a concept most of us, I'm going to guess, are probably using already. And the closest thing I can think of is a banking relationship. So you have a personal bank that you run your stuff through, and you can log into a website for the bank. You can do bill pay. You can do cashier's checks. You can do wire transfers. You can get a whole bunch of services from your bank that's all delivered online via a browser, and you don't maintain anything, you don't do anything, but this just becomes a service. That's really the concept behind software as a service, and specifically the Dynamics 365 product. So what is Dynamics 365? Dynamics 365 is actually a set of business applications that can be purchased as a service. So there's more than one product out here, and there are a lot of options in terms of what components would you want to use or not use. But the key piece of this is I don't own the software, I don't install the software, I don't need to maintain the software. Same thing in the hardware environment. I don't have to buy hardware, I don't have to maintain hardware, I don't have to upgrade a hardware. I access the system via a browser, and in this case Microsoft maintains the back-end hardware infrastructure for me, as well as the software infrastructure. So I am buying the use of a piece of software. The specific product we're looking at today is going to be Dynamics 365 for Financials, the Business Edition. So if you look at the marketing around this product and information around this product, there are sales, marketing, and service components within Dynamics 365. And those would have been, maybe what you're familiar with is Dynamics CRM. So those are the CRM products that are now being delivered through Dynamics 365. You had the option for online or hosted versions of Dynamics 365 for many years. So what this is an extension of those service offerings for financial modules. So in the financial space, there is Dynamics 365 Financials Enterprise Edition, and that's really for very large organizations. There is a minimum number of users that are required for purchase of that, and they're just larger applications. The one we're looking at today, again, is Dynamics 365 for Financials Business Edition. So this is what Microsoft is marketing as the smaller of the two financial products. Both of these products integrate with the sales and marketing and service components of the Dynamics sales side of the world. But this financials application is really geared towards your 2-user to up to 250 users in the financial modules. And the modules we're going to look at specifically with this product today are the financial modules. We'll look through sales order processing, purchase order processing, and then just briefly on inventory. Other modules that are available within this offering include banking options, again, inventory, which we'll talk on briefly, but it's an extensive set of applications, fixed assets, and there's also a jobs module, or it's not really project accounting, it's geared more towards jobs. So that's the components we're going to look at today. I forgot to advance the slide, but that's the components. So we'll go through general user interface, financial, sales, purchasing. I'm going to show you a little bit of the Office 365 and Outlook integrations. So Matt had sort of hinted around the Office 365 components that are available online. Microsoft wants to further leverage those connections with the Dynamics application, the Dynamics 365 application. So I'm going to show you just one little component, an Outlook integration, talk a little bit about extensions that are offered, and then briefly look at Power BI. So let's get into the application. So as I said, it runs in a browser. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up my browser so that you can see how the application will run. If you're familiar with Office 365, this becomes another option within Office 365. So if you're familiar with, I don't know exactly what the technical term is, people call this the honeycomb. You've got your Office applications available. What you're going to see is a Dynamics 365 icon becomes available, and within that I can get to my financial applications. So this is the basic role center that the user will initially start in. So I'm going to just talk through this and look at some feature functionality here. The role center is designed so that a person with a role will have the features, the functionality, the charts, access to the system that they need from this base menu. So as roles change, what you're going to see is the menu across the top will change, the menu down the left will change, as well as the icons and the things that sit in the central window. And I'm going to actually log out and log back in so you can see that change. So let's look at just some basic things within the role center that starts here. This section here is called a queue, and this is looking at some activities, again, based on my role as an accountant. What these queues allow me to do as an end user is monitor activities within the system. So I like to say that anything that I could count within the system is something that I could create a queue for. So in this example, I've got overdue purchase documents. I can see 17 of them. We have a visual queue that turns this little icon, the queue sheet red. That's telling me there's something within there that needs my attention. 17 is outside of our tolerance levels. You can see on this one, this is a caution, so there's a yellow. I can have it blank, which would be a neutral version, or I could actually have it green. So there's 4 states that a little queue window could be. This allows me then to drill into the activity that makes up that queue. So in this case, it's saying I want to look at overdue financial documents. If I click on that, I'm going to get a listing of the 17 that are overdue. So basically, whatever makes up that queue is going to be dropped in. Within Dynamics 365, I've got charts and graphs that are available. There is a cash flow component within the financial modules in Dynamics 365, so this just happens to be a chart displaying my cash cycle on, I think I've got this by quarter. Yeah, so it's by quarter. It may not be super, you know, it is what it is in my demo database. Here's another way of looking at the cash forecast here, just a different type of a chart. I've got access to my data, so my accounts, my vendors, my items, my customers will allow me to monitor a subset of my data by user. So as a user, I can say I want to look at specific accounts. In this example, I set up so that I'm happen to be watching my cash and my payables and receivables, more balance sheet types information. But I've got the a view of live data here. So the current balance of my checking account is $25,638. If I click on this blue link, it will drill into the transactions then that make up the balance, which happens to be a few journal entries, not a lot to look at with the demo data. What you're going to see in Dynamics 365 is the ability to drill through all of my data. So everything that we see here that's blue is a drill down field. It could be a flow field that would be calculated live as the window opens, or it could be a drill down. So in this case, if I click on the 10100, it's going to take me to my cash account setup. Within the Dynamics 365 product, Microsoft has done a lot of work to help with the setup of the application. So in this section, you can see this is called Assisted Setup. So until I actually complete all the setup components available to me in the application, I'm going to get them listed here. But these setup options here will just walk me through. So if I want to set up email, I can click Set Up Email, and it will walk me through how to connect my email system to my Dynamics 365. If I want to work through setting up approval workflows, I can click on this, and it'll walk me through what I need to do to set up workflows. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out and then log back in so that you can see. I'm going to switch over to the business manager role, and I'm going to have just some more options. It tells me I need to log out to make that have that obviously take place. Okay, so my role center now is different. You can see I'm here listed as the business manager instead of the accountant. So some of the things that were focused around the accountant, like the cash flow charts and that sort of thing, those are all gone now. And I'm looking just at the business manager level. You can see it's geared more towards sales, so I can see orders, quotes, invoices, that sort of thing. But again, the role center has changed. I want to just take you to a list view and just talk a little bit about some interactions with the data as we get into the application. So I'm showing you right now a list of the items that are set up within my company. What you're going to see is the ability to first change the view of these items. So I can click these views and I can see that I can attach an image to the item in this case. And I've got three different options of viewing the items. If my sales team or my inventory management team wants to look at a picture versus a description, I can switch those around pretty easily. The other thing I can do is I can sort these, so all of these columns are sortable, ascending, descending. I can filter on them, and then I can also choose which columns I would want to display. Right now I have them all displayed. Which columns I would want to display and look at. Those settings are all user specific. So as I go through and make changes in my application, they're not going to affect anybody else. Their setup of the in this case items. One other component that I want to show you right here as we are in a list view is this Edit in Excel option. What this Edit in Excel option allows me to do, and it's available on any list view within the application, is it allows me actually to connect, and if I click on that button, I'm going to get this spreadsheet. It will allow me to connect live via Excel back to the list of things that I'm on, in this case my items. And I can actually edit the, in this case, items, and then using this Publish button, write the data back to the database. So I don't need to edit record by record. I can actually edit all of these records at the same time and then publish and write back. The interesting thing about this is the system will do all the data validation. So in this case, I've got a field that's called blocked. I I've got a true or a false option here. If I type something other than true or false, and you can see right here the values are true and false listed for me. If I type something other than true or false, the data is validated as it goes back into Dynamics 365, and I'm going to get an error message within my spreadsheet. So, it does all of that. The other thing is you can see in my spreadsheet, I'm getting all of the columns that are in this table. And you can see that I've got quantity on hand, quantity on purchase order, quantity on sales orders, all that sort of thing. So not only can I use this Excel interface to write data or update data back to Dynamics 365, I can actually use this for analysis purposes. So I could use all of the functionality of Excel to create pivot tables or charts or lookups or really anything I want. Again, using Excel as the interface. If I hit this refresh button, what it's going to do is it's going to go back and refresh the data. So if I've got some pivot charts or pivot tables set up around inventory quantities by class or something like that, we actually had a client that wanted to look at inventory availability based on how old the inventory was. You could actually use Excel as the interface for that reporting tool and allow users to have Excel as their interface to the application. So I don't have to run a report. Again, I can use Excel as that interface. The nice thing about that is most people by now are very comfortable in Excel. Oftentimes what we see with clients is they're not real comfortable within the application. So if you want to use Excel as the tool to distribute some information out to your end users, it's super easy to do now. Okay, I'm going to go back to home. And I'm just going to walk through some application, or part of the application for us this morning. So I'm going to start with the financials, and I'm just actually going to pull up the chart of accounts just so that we can see how the chart of accounts is set up in Dynamics 365. So I'm going to pull up this checking account, and I move from a list view on my inventory items, and this is called a card view. So card views are standard throughout the application, and how they work is very consistent. Obviously, the data is going to be different, but how they function is going to be exactly the same. So on this card view, I'm looking up detail information on, in this case, a GL account number, and its description is checking account. One thing you're going to notice with Dynamics 365 is the concept of saving doesn't exist. And Dynamics 365 is set up to update your database as you go. So as you notice, I just tabbed off of that description field. My description up on my page title changed from checking account to just checking. And if I hit the X to exit this card, I updated the database. I don't need to save anything. The really nice thing about this, as we've got users in the application, I don't have to worry about missing data or forgetting to save data or losing data. The system constantly will keep data updated. The other thing about this is that all of that data then is updated and available to everyone else in the system. So changing the description on a GL account, that may be a little mundane, but if you think about entering purchase order information or entering sales information, and I enter a sales order and I commit quantity of inventory to a customer, and I tab off of that, the next person that goes to look up that inventory item is going to see I've got committed quantities of inventory. So the system is really as real time as you possibly could get. All right, how these windows work then is I've got text fields, I can tab through them, and then I have extensions or fast tabs through the application. So if I want more information on posting, I can expand that and contract those, and if I want information on reporting, not a lot of options there, I can expand those. You also notice that my icons change. They're obviously context sensitive to the screen that I'm on. A couple of things here in terms of setup and configuration. You can do anything you want really with alphanumeric characters around the chart of account number, description. There's some basic categorization of income statement, balance sheet. Dynamics 365 has also added some functionality around the account type and then the subtype. So if you look at this category of assets, if I click on then the description, I've got a further categorization of the type of asset this account is. A couple things to note on this page. One is you can create as many categories as you want of sub-account of asset. And what's going to happen is these categories that you create, totals and subtotals and all that sort of stuff, is as complicated as you want to get. So here I've got current assets and fixed assets, but I could have current assets and then cash versus securities and inventory and all sorts of things. all of this setup then will transfer automatically to my financial reports. So out of the box, I've got income statements and balance sheets that are going to be tied to how I've configured my chart of accounts. So as I make changes to that chart, my financial reports can also change. Now, you can create your own financial reports as well using these account categories, not using the account categories. It's up to you. But in terms of speed to deploy, configuring this also will configure my financial statements. One other nice thing that you can see by looking up this account category is I see this balance field here. That is the current balance of that category. So if I want to know what my current cash balance is, I could actually look at this account category called cash. You can see it's a roll-up of a series or a range of accounts that actually give me the balance of this account. So if I, in this case, don't need to know what the individual accounts are, I only want to know what cash is, I can still get to that using these account categories. All right. A couple other things in terms of how Dynamics 365 is set up. So in configuration of the financials, I would create my account number, and then after that, what we have is dimensions that are available. And a dimension would be a way to categorize a transaction that I'm processing in the system. So if you think of more traditional systems that use sub-accounts or account segments, that's in essence a dimension, except dimensions have much more capable, they have many more capabilities than just what an account segment would be. So I can set up dimensions to track really any characteristic on a transaction that I would want. So again, department's pretty typical. I've got admin, I've got production company, I've got whatever that. I could have product lines of inventory, for example. But the other things that I can do with dimensions is maybe have a salesperson, or maybe I've got a sales territory, or I could have a vendor buying group. I can track things with dimensions that typically you wouldn't be able to track so easily with a segmented chart of accounts. The other thing with dimensions is I can put rules around dimensions as to when they're required or not required. So for example, if I have a revenue account and I want to track a sales territory, a salesperson, and a product line, because department probably doesn't really make a lot of sense on a revenue account, I can track those dimensions for revenue accounts. But in terms of, let's say, my balance sheet, inventory levels, well, a sales territory doesn't make sense on an inventory item, so I wouldn't use that dimension on an inventory item. But product line might. So I could have product line reporting, again, in terms of what financial reports would look like. That could take balance sheet accounts using product category as a dimension code, giving me my current inventory valuations. But then I could also look at cost of goods and revenue by product line or product type. So that's some examples on how to use dimensions. Okay, want to keep us moving today. So other things in the financial areas, obviously we have bank accounts. We have cash, cash abilities within Dynamics 365. I can do bank accounts, reconcile my bank account, do my bank finance charges, all that sort of thing. I've got the ability to bring in bank statements. Dynamics 365 is fully multi-currency enabled from the beginning. So I'm not going to touch on currency today, but you've got all of the multi-currency options available to you day one with the application. The other thing in financials, we're not going to go in them today, but if I go to advanced finance options, you can see I've got budgets. The system can track unlimited number of budgets at a dimension value. So if I want to do budgeting by product line and I want to budget cost of goods as well as sales by product line, my dimensions are available to me. So similar again to what we would see with a segment, but a lot more functionality. And then we do have a fully functional fixed assets module as well that's available, and I'm not going to go into that one today either just because of time. Okay, let's go to the sales section of the application, and what I want to do here is really walk through feature functionality that's available within the application. So we're not going to probably hit every item, but I'd really like to show you as much of the application as possible, so we'll probably move a little quickly through the application. I'm going to pull up the Canon group here again. I clicked on that 1,000 or that 10,000, which will open up a customer. I'm going to take you through the menu options across the top, and we'll look at feature functionality. So obviously I have the ability to create a new, edit, or delete, in this case, a customer. Another interesting thing about Dynamics 365 is these key fields can be updated by the end user if you want them to. So if I wanted to change the Canon group from customer number 10,000, I can make it 10,001, and it will update the customer record throughout the system. That's also true for any master record. So if I want to change my chart of accounts, I want to change my inventory item numbers, really anything in the system. Changing an account number for most systems is a huge undertaking. Dynamics 365, it's easy as opening up my account number, changing my cash account from 10,100 to 10,101. Tab off the field. It will ask me, do I want to make the change? I say yes, and then it will update the entire system for me. Same thing true again for the customer. I've got reporting available in the system, so I've got customer detail entries, that sort of thing. From the customer record, I can create new transactions. So another thing you're going to see in Dynamics 365 is the ability to create, look up, and enter transactions throughout the application. So if I've got a salesperson that's on a customer record and I want to enter a new document, I could navigate to the customer, then create a new document. I could also navigate to the area of the application where I enter sales orders or invoices and create them there. Okay, I've got approvals for new customers. I've got the ability to do contact information, store bank account, multiple ship-tos on a customer. On our Actions tab, Dynamics 365 is set up with templates throughout the system. So if we've got less sophisticated users, let's say setting up customer records, I got salespeople in the field, and you really want them to be able to create a customer very quickly, limited amount of information for setup. I can create templates that they could pull from that will help them set up, let's say, all the other information. So if I had a customer template by state that set up all the tax information so my end users don't have to select that when they create a new customer, again, I can use templates for that. All right, navigate. So what we see is the first thing is dimensions. So I have the ability to tie dimensions to master records throughout the application. So again, we talked about an inventory class or that sort of thing, or a territory, or a customer buying group, or a vendor buying group. I can default dimensions to these master records, and then when transactions are processed, the end user doesn't have to select the dimension that applies. It just flows through the system. So that's what that's for. I've got cross-reference information for item numbers for my customer as well as my vendor. Document layouts. This is an awesome feature within the application. So I have the ability by, in this case, customers to say what default report output is going to be used when I create a quote or an order confirmation or an invoice. Invoice is a typical requirement we see with clients that I need to do a customized invoice for a client, or maybe I've got 4 different invoice types and I want to select which invoice the customer wants to use. So by customer, I can set up and change the default output of the report. Just one note here, I'm not going to do a lot on reporting, but there's a default report writer within Dynamics 365. You also have the ability to use custom layouts. So I could change the default reports that are delivered with the system. I can also use Word templates and Excel templates as report output options. So if I'm a type of person that really likes Word templates and I want my invoices to go via a Word template, I can do a custom invoice using Word, and it will create the output into a Word document. By default, the nav reports will go to a PDF. Okay, ledger entries. Ledger entries, it's a component within the system that allows me to look up history, in this case, of the Canon group. So if I click on ledger entries, what I'm going to see is a list of all of the transactions for this customer. The nice thing about this is I can sort this list. I can, export this list to Excel. I can actually show posted documents. So in this case, I'm on an invoice, and I say, well, I want to actually know what the invoice looked like. I can drill down to the invoice detail. A step further, I can use this navigate button. And if I click on this navigate button, what it will allow me to do is to look at all of the other transactions in the system that pertain to this invoice. So if you go down this list, I can look at the posted sales document. That was the view document. I can also look at the journal entry. So if I want to know what was the full impact at my ledger for this particular invoice, I can look at that. I can see over here there's 7 lines. Again, the blue field I can drill into. If I click on that, I can see the entire journal entry for this invoice. I can look at tax transactions, other customer ledger entries, detailed customer ledger entries. What that tells me is how were payments applied to this invoice, how were credits issued. I can have subsequent invoices that apply to previous invoices. So if I'm, sort of doing an add-on product or correction, or if I had a return, so I get a credit, and then I have a reshipment, so I'm going to get another invoice. All those can be tied together, and I can see that here using the detailed ledger entries. Item ledger entries, that gives me all the information about the items that may be on this invoice. So I can look at purchase sides of the transactions, cost side of the transactions, everything I'd want regarding my item, and then the valuation is my costing of my inventory items. Okay, so lots to do in the item ledger entries. While we're here, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. Within the item or customer ledger entries, I can also apply or unapply a document. I can reverse a document as well. So if for some reason this invoice, it should have actually been paid and I applied a payment to the wrong invoice, I can come in here, unapply it, and then I can reapply payments within this window. So it's very easy to make those sort of corrections within the application. So for customers, I can do invoice discounts, I can do pricing, I can do line discounts. This quotes and orders allows me to look up existing transactions for this customer. Okay, so we looked through the card before in the item list. The customer card looks very similar. I can say show more, show less. I can collapse these fields. So looking at the data, searching at the data, these windows can get pretty simple. Okay, so let's look at some transactions before we run out of time today. So I'm going to go to sales quotes, and what I'm going to see in the system are open sales quotes. So this isn't going to show me all sales quotes. It's going to show me open sales quotes. So again, I'm going to click on the blue window to open up a sales quote. Let's just talk through feature functionality that's available at the quote window, and I'm going to talk about it using the menu across the top to start with. So if we look at the home tab, again, I've got edit, new, delete. If I want to send this quote then to somebody, I can built-in send to email. I love this feature, and what it allows me to do is I can type in the to. This dropped in based on the contact that was selected for my customer. I can enter a CCC or BCC. It's going to give me a subject line. Then I can attach the report that I created, or if I wanted to modify. In this case, I've got the sales quote that's in the form of a PDF. It's going to attach that, and then in the body of the email, I'm actually going to see the quote. Now, all of these are customizable, so if I want to change how the quote works or how it looks or whatever, I can do that. But what I really like is the ability to drop this right into an email and send it in the body of an email. I have the ability to make an order from this. So the sales processing can be quote, order to invoice. I don't need to use quotes, but if I have a quote, I can make an order out of it. If I use quotes but don't want to use orders and I want to just use invoices, I can go right to an invoice transaction from here. Then you can see I've got dimensions, customers, and all that sort of stuff. On the Actions tab, I can print this document, and I can also get recurring lines. So interesting feature, if you've got a set of transactions that recur for customers, I can say get recurring sales lines. It'll just drop them into my line items. And I can also copy a previous document. So it could be a quote, order, invoice, return, that sort of thing. You'll see that same feature throughout the application. So if we look at a credit or a return, I can copy a previous document, maybe an invoice or a shipment, and I don't have to rekey all this stuff. I've got some reporting and some management options. So down here in the line items or in the quote itself, I select my customer. On the line items, I would select my item. The description, I've got the ability to add different contacts, and we looked at pricing already. Okay. I'm going to close this window. Sales orders. So a quote can become an order. I could also start with an order. The difference between a quote, an order, and an invoice are pretty basic. A quote doesn't commit inventory, and it just shows you then you've got inventory on a quote. An order will actually commit inventory and give me the ability to ship multiple times against an order. So I can ship once, I can ship 15 times against a sales order. An invoice will commit inventory if I go directly to an invoice. But it just doesn't allow me to ship against an invoice. So I can capture some shipping information if I wanted to, but I don't really have a shipping process that I can execute with an invoice. So it just really depends on sort of how you need to run a transaction or how you operate your organization. So looking at sales orders, if I click on that, what you're going to see in Dynamics 365 is the applications are designed consistently. So a quote is going to look exactly like an order, and it's really going to look, you'll see, exactly like an invoice. They did this to speed training and really allowing your users to adapt to the system very quickly. If I learn how to enter an invoice, I can figure out how to do a quote very easily. I can figure out how to do an order very easily. So that's the idea behind the design and really the strict requirements on how these pages work and function within the application. So a sales order, again, allows me to do shipping, and you can see I've got quantity to ship, quantity shipped. So tell me if I had already shipped against this order. I have those abilities within the system. I'll just mention posting briefly. So as I post in the system, it's really this finalized process, and the transactions are posted all the way through the ledger as I post this transaction. On an order, I also have post and send. So we looked at that sending the quote. I've got the option on the order to post and then send it, and it can be via email, PDF, whatever I would like to do. All right. I'm going to go over to the purchasing modules, again, to keep us on time for today. And what you're going to see is this is really a mirror image of the sales order processing. So a lot of our clients that we work with, people that enter sales orders and people that enter purchase orders are oftentimes the same group of people. The beauty behind this application is the feature functionality that you see on the sales side is almost mirrored identically on the purchasing side. So how I navigate, how I set up customers, how I set up vendors, how I set up quotes and orders is really identical, which will help speed the adoption of the application. So if I come in here to vendors, I open up a vendor. Other than it saying vendor instead of customer, you'll notice feature functionality is very similar. So if we go across the top, I have the ability to do approvals. I can, again, enter new documents right from this window if I want to. If I look at the Actions tab, I've got templates available to me. So if I've got some purchasing people that need to set up vendors as they're entering purchase orders, they can create a new vendor, apply a template to it, and I'm going to get all my defaults, particularly probably around taxes or use tax and that sort of thing. Navigation, I've got the ability to add dimensions. Bank accounts, so if you're paying your vendors via electronic transfers or that sort of thing, I can capture the bank account information from my vendor. And I have the ability to enter contacts. Order addresses is the same functionality as a ship-to address. Cross-references allows me to set up vendor part number versus my part number. And then document layouts allows me the same functionality for invoices, quotes, and that sort of thing that I would maybe need to print for my vendor. I can set up custom documents for a particular vendor. I've got discounting, line discounts, and then you can see the ledger entries in terms of history for my vendor is very similar to what we looked at for the customer. So I can look up history, I can look at posted documents, I can again navigate to see the journal entry, the cost side of the transactions, inventory information, whatever I'd want to see. This screen is great if we look at a search option over here. If you've got an accounts payable person and, you know, I've got a vendor on the phone and they say, where is my check? And you say, well, it was paid with whatever. The search functionality allows me to search through these documents very quickly and find, you know, what question did my vendor have? When did I pay it? And get the vendor the information they would want very quickly. Okay, let's look at transactions. I'm just going to mention incoming documents right here. We're going to look at extensions towards the end of the presentation this morning, and an extension allows me to add additional functionality to my Dynamics 365 system. And the way this works is I go pick my extension and it will automatically install into the application. So many of us probably have you know, third-party products is what we would have called them in the past. These extensions are essentially third-party products that I don't need to install. I just click on it and say yes, put into my system, and what you're going to see is your Dynamics 365 environment will be updated to include those extensions, and then I just start using them. Now, depending on what extension it is, I may or may not need to engage that vendor in terms of, let's say, setting it up. Okay, we're going to get more into that a little bit later. One thing that you can do as an extension within Dynamics 365 is document imaging. So there is a document imaging third-party product out there that would allow me to scan my documents to and then I can use this incoming documents feature to populate, in this case, purchase documents. So my vendors can send me documents, I can scan them, send them off to this outside company that would and essentially make a text file out of them that can be imported back into my Dynamics 365 system, so I don't need to rekey them. These incoming documents then would be tied throughout the application to whatever transaction I'm looking at. So that was a long way to get to incoming documents. All right, let's look at purchase orders. So again, if I select purchase orders, this is going to be open purchase orders that are in the system. And you're going to see in terms of layout and design, it looks and it mirrors exactly what we saw on the sales order side. So I select my customer, I select my buy from, and I can show a little more information available to me. I've got the ability to do drop ships as well as tie purchase orders to sales order line items. We didn't look at all that functionality, but it's within the application. Across the top, I can again print and post. I can copy a document. So if I had a PO that was out there already, I could create a copy of it. And I do have approvals in the system. So if my purchase orders need to be approved, I can make a request to have it approved. I can also send via email. So the same thing we looked at with the sales order, where it became part of the email. I can do that here with this with the purchase order as well. In terms of actions, I've got again standard vendor purchase codes like we saw, standard customer sales codes. So if I've got basically a template order that I could have with a vendor, we see this quite frequently. You know, I order the same 5 things typically from the vendor on a monthly basis. I can either copy the previous PO, or I could actually set up standard vendor purchase codes and then drop them in on a regular basis. I also have some ability within these standard customer and standard vendor purchase codes to do recurring transactions. So if I want a purchase order to recur, or actually a sales order to recur every some sort of interval, maybe monthly or every 6 weeks or something like that, I can set up these standard codes and then put them on a cycle. There's my drop ship functionality within the purchase order, and again, that could be initiated from a sales order if I wanted to, and then my incoming document transactions. Navigate, I can look at my dimensions. I could look at receipts if there were any against this purchase order, as well as invoicing. And then this is my warehousing drop shipment functionality. All right. Let's go over to sales or purchase invoices. Open that up. Again, very similar feature functionality. I don't have the ability to receive with a purchase invoice, so a purchase order would allow me to issue a purchase order, receive against it. A purchase invoice would allow me to receive inventory, but the receipt and the payment, or I'm sorry, not the payment, but the purchase invoice would all happen at the same time. So I get the vendor invoice, I'm going to increment inventory as well as sort of acknowledge the invoice from the vendor all at one time. Again, you can see I have approvals on these transactions as well. And then basically what we saw with the purchase order, I've got available within my purchase invoice. Okay. All right. So what I want to do now is we're going to step outside and look at some of the other applications that I can now I can integrate with my Dynamics 365 system. So the first one is really Outlook, and so we saw a little bit with the Office 365 application when we said, you know, I want to export my data and drop it into Excel. What I want to show you now is actually an Outlook integration. And so I'm in Outlook, and I set up within my Gmail system, or actually within my Gmail account, I emailed myself an email that says, I'm interested in a yellow desk chair. So typical, maybe your vendor, your customer, something interacts with you, and I get an email from my customer or vendor. Because I've integrated and I've connected my Outlook system to my Dynamics 365 system, I have 2 more icons that show up over here on the right, and it's this Open Financials in Outlook. And if I click on this Contact Insights, what the system is going to do is it's going to see that this person's email address is set up in my Dynamics 365 as a customer, and it's going to give me information on the customer. So this happens to be the general store. What I can see is I've got details on what's my current balance of the customer, what's overdue. So if I'm a salesperson and my customer emailed me, I can click on this Insights and I can very quickly see that, well, you owe us $1,700 and oh, by the way, 1,000 of it's past due. Maybe I need to have a quick conversation with my customer while I've got them on the phone. I've got some charting that's available to me, and I've got queues that are available to me. Here's the awesome thing. I'm in Outlook. I'm not in Dynamics 365. I didn't have to open a browser, but I have the same functionality that I did in Dynamics 365. So if I look at outgoing sales quotes, now this is all context sensitive. So this email address pulls up the general store. Knowing that the general store is in context, there are 4 open quotes for the general store, and if I just click on this number 4 within my browser now, and I can actually use this little pop-out window within my browser, information about those transactions is now going to load. They loaded on my other window, and you'll notice it looks just like Dynamics 365. So in terms of interacting with the application, I don't need to go open another browser session, try to figure out how I log into Dynamics 365 online or any of that. It's all available to me right in Outlook. So we saw vendor ledger entries, same idea. These are the quotes that I've got out here for my customer. And actually, if I click on the quote, I can open it up and get to a lot of details on the quote itself. Okay? Other things that I can do actually within this application is this is also drillable. So if I want to know not only the balance but the balance due, I can click on this balance field. There are those customer ledger entries that we saw within the application, and I can see, you know, what transactions are open, and I can actually open up the invoice. So they say, well, what was on that invoice? And they'll say, oh, well, you bought an Athens desk and you haven't paid me for it yet. So I can navigate the data. From here, I can also enter new sales orders, invoices, quotes, credit memos. I can get information on details, and I can also edit, in this case, the customer record that I'm on. What they're giving people is the ability to interact with my ERP system within Outlook, which is where, in the case of a salesperson or a purchasing agent, they spend a considerable amount of time. So again, I don't have to have them learn another application, figure out another user interface. They can stay in Outlook, do their job within Outlook. I can process transactions within Outlook, so I can create new sales orders and ship from within Outlook if I want to with my Dynamics 365 application. So awesome feature functionality. All right, next, I want to talk a little bit about extensions. So if we come up here and go to Dynamics 365, this is the way I would navigate into the system. So the financials, so this is the application that I showed you. This happens to be our CRM system, so it's connected in here. And then I'm going to have this other option here, which is apps that work with Dynamics 365, and these are the extensions. So if I click on financials, what you see here are extensions that I can purchase and add on to my system as an end user. So I've got from ChargeLogic this notify option. I can do payments through the system. I can do some data migration. I can migrate data from GP out of the system. I've got some address verification functionality. I've got standard payments with PayPal. So if I want to do credit cards with my customers, I can say get now. I'm obviously going to have to set up some merchant stuff with PayPal and get that set up. But if I have a PayPal account set up and I click get now, I can hook in my existing PayPal account into my Dynamics 365 system within about 20 minutes and be up and running, ready to take credit cards for my or other things from my customers. Some other data migration options. This is an interesting one, which is a fully functional integrated web shop for online shopping and ordering that's built into Dynamics 365. So these aren't free. There's an additional charge for them, but what you can see is the additional functionality that I can add to my Dynamics 365 system. And honestly, you know, Microsoft said there's more of these every day. There actually are. I think when I first prepped for this demo, there were 8, and we've got 4 more that are available to us. And if you look across, you know, the other Dynamics 365 systems, there's more and more available. So I just think it's a matter of time that we're going to see more and more extensions coming all the time. All right. Last thing I wanted to show you, I got 3 minutes left, is Power BI. So if you look at your Dynamics or Office 365 system, you also have the ability to do Power BI, and Within Power BI, there are out-of-the-box connections both to Dynamics CRM, which I think a lot of people aren't aware of, but I also have ability to connect to Dynamics, my 365 for financial system. So all I did was I said get data source. I pointed it to my Dynamics 365 system, which is just a URL and a user ID and a password. And it said, great, it connected, it set up my data set. I've got some default reports and default dashboards that, again, are available to me at no additional charge as long as you've got Power BI. So out-of-the-box connection and functionality to connect your Dynamics 365 into Power BI. So that is what I wanted to show. Jack, do we have questions or anything we want to answer quick? You're muted, Jack.
We didn't have any questions. We can certainly take some more questions. The questions need to come via the question box there. We only have a minute or so left, so I'll continue talking and wait for questions. You can certainly also email me the questions here. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up, and we'll wait to see if there are any questions. The next step is to keep in mind we have an in-person event. I know we've got a number of people that are from out of town, and but we also have a lot of people that are local. And so at the Microsoft office in Edina, suburb here in Minneapolis, we're going to be doing an in-person event with another very good partner, Power Objects. So what we're going to do is have Marcus using one screen and one big monitor, and then another person entering transactions in CRM Online. So they'll be entering accounts, orders, and that type of thing, and you'll be able to see how the integration happens instantly. So that event is also free. We're shooting for February 16th. We're waiting for Microsoft to hear back. If you'd like us to remind you, hey, we got it set up. Here's the date and time. I'll certainly do that. You can see my date, or you can, on the next slide, you can see my email. Feel free to call me, email me.
Actually, we're getting some questions, Jack. I'd be more than happy to talk to those.
Okay, great.
All right, so the first question was, are there any migration tools from GP 2015? Yeah, in terms of migration tools, what they have out of the box is a migration basically of master records. So it's not a transactional migration, which I'm assuming is probably the question that's underlying the migration question. So they've got out of the box, bring in customers, vendors, chart of accounts, inventory items, but in terms of transactional data, there isn't any. Can you speak to the use of dimensions for job costing? Yeah, so on a job, you have the ability to set up dimensions. So the dimensions, and I don't want to get too much into the jobs, but there's jobs, and then there's tasks, and then there's task lines. So it's sort of a three-level component that's set up on jobs. Dimensions can default then from the job itself, but they could also default from transactions that occur on a job. So it could be a resource in terms of a person, it could be a resource in terms of a piece of machinery, it could be an inventory item, that sort of thing. So it's sort of this layering component, and during the implementation you'd want to be careful to figure out, how do these and where do the dimensions need to come from. Okay. Let's see. Recognized revenue and cost of goods using dimensions and using the budget fields for job estimates. That's a huge, long question, and it's very complicated in the jobs module. So I don't know that I could answer it in this venue. It does take some time to map out, how those transactions flow through the system. The system is very capable, but yeah, it would just take some time mapping that out. So great. That was it, Jack.
Okay. Well, thank you, Marcus, and thanks everyone for joining us. And feel free to email or call if you have questions, and please do sign up for the event right around February 16th if you'd like to see it in person. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.